In 1994, a Kurdish shepherd named Göbekli noticed something strange on a hill in southeastern Turkey. A stone was sticking out of the ground. When he pulled it, he uncovered something that would force archaeologists to rewrite every textbook about human history. Göbekli Tepe, massive stone temples built 11,500 years ago. That's 6,000 years before Stonehenge. 7,000 years before the Great Pyramids. According to everything we thought we knew, the people who built this were supposed to be primitive hunter-gatherers who hadn't even invented farming yet. So how did they quarry, transport, carve, and assemble 20-ton stone pillars decorated with intricate reliefs of animals, including some they'd never encountered before? Let's back up. For decades, this hill in Turkey was considered unremarkable. But in 1963, archaeologists from the University of Chicago surveyed the area and noted the site might have potential. Then nothing happened for 30 years. In 1994, German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt was reviewing old survey notes and decided to investigate personally. What that shepherd had found wasn't just a stone. It was the tip of a T-shaped megalithic pillar. Schmidt started excavating and, within weeks, realized they'd found something unprecedented. Massive circular stone structures, one after another. He would spend the rest of his life excavating this site until his death in 2014. And here's the thing. We've only excavated about 5% of Göbekli Tepe. Ground penetrating radar shows at least 20 more circular structures still buried. What we've found so far has already rewritten history. What's still down there? Göbekli Tepe consists of massive, circular and oval structures. At the center of each are two enormous T-shaped limestone pillars, some weighing up to 20 tons and standing 18 feet tall. These aren't rough stones, they're precisely carved with a T-shape that archaeologists believe represents stylized human figures. The head of the T is the top, the body is the vertical shaft. Arranged around these central pillars in circles are smaller pillars. Though smaller as relatives, they still weigh several tons each. What makes these pillars extraordinary are the carvings. Intricate three-dimensional reliefs of animals cover the surfaces. Lions, foxes, gazelles, snakes, scorpions, vultures, and bulls. The craftsmanship is stunning. These aren't primitive stick figures, these are sophisticated artistic representations, with depth, proportion, and detail. Some pillars have human arms carved on the sides, reinforcing the theory that they represent humanoid figures. The structures are arranged in what archaeologists call enclosures, circular ritual spaces. The largest excavated structure, called Enclosure D, has a diameter of about 65 feet. And remember, this is 11,500 years old. For perspective, Stonehenge is 5,000 years old. The Great Pyramid is 4,600 years old. Göbekli Tepe is more than twice as old as either. Here's where everything we thought we knew about human development falls apart. In 9,500 BC, when Göbekli Tepe was being built, humans were supposed to be nomadic hunter-gatherers. Small bands of maybe 20 to 50 people, following animal migrations, gathering wild plants, living in temporary shelters. Agriculture hadn't been invented yet. That wouldn't happen for another 1,500 years in this same region. Permanent settlements didn't exist. Writing was 6,000 years in the future. Metal tools were 6,500 years away. Yet somehow, these primitive hunter-gatherers organized hundreds, maybe thousands of people to quarry 20-ton limestone blocks from a bedrock quarry a quarter-mile away, transport them to the hilltop, carve them with sophisticated three-dimensional reliefs, then precisely position them in massive circular structures aligned to astronomical features. Let me emphasize this. They did this without metal tools, without the wheel, without pack animals, without any of the technologies we associate with monumental construction. The standard archaeological model says complex societies emerge only after agriculture. You need farming to create food surplus. Food surplus allows specialization. Specialization leads to craftsmen, priests, builders. But Göbekli Tepe flips that model upside down. This suggests that complex organized religion and monumental architecture came before agriculture. Some archaeologists now theorize that religion might have driven the agricultural revolution, not the other way around. People gathered to build these temples, and the need to feed so many people in one place forced them to start cultivating wild grains. Göbekli Tepe didn't emerge from civilization. It may have caused it. Let's talk about how impossible this construction actually is. The largest pillar at Göbekli Tepe weighs approximately 50 tons. It's still lying in the bedrock quarry where it was being carved but never finished. Archaeologists can trace the quarrying technique. They carved channels around the pillar, then used wooden wedges. When water was poured on the wedges, they expanded and cracked the bedrock, allowing the pillar to be freed. But here's the problem. How do you move a 50-ton stone a quarter-mile uphill without wheels, without metal tools, without domesticated animals? Modern archaeology's answer is rope and manpower, maybe 500 people pulling together. But that creates more questions. How do you organize 500 people? How do you feed them while they're working instead of hunting and gathering? Where did 500 people even come from in a world of small nomadic bands? And the carving, the three-dimensional animal reliefs show sophisticated artistic skill. The snakes have scales. The foxes have fur texture. The vultures have individual feathers. This isn't amateur work. This is master craftsmanship. What tools did they use? We found some flint tools on site, but flint against limestone for hours of detailed carving. It would take months per pillar, years for an entire structure. The precision is also baffling. The pillars stand perfectly vertical. The circular arrangements have geometric precision. Some researchers have noted astronomical alignments. Certain pillars align with star positions in 9500 BC. How did hunter-gatherers know enough about astronomy to encode it in stone architecture? Now let's discuss those animal carvings, because they present their own mystery. Many of the animals carved on the pillars, leopards, aurochs, lived in the region 11,500 years ago. That makes sense. But some of the carvings depict creatures that shouldn't have been in southeastern Turkey. There are what appear to be African animals. There are composite creatures that don't exist in nature. Some researchers have identified carvings that might represent animals from different climate zones, suggesting either the carvers traveled vast distances or they had knowledge transmitted from far away. One of the most debated carvings is in Enclosure D on Pillar 43, sometimes called the vulture stone. It shows a circle of animals arranged around what some interpret as a headless human being. Above this scene are symbols that some researchers controversially claim represent a comet impact. Engineer and author Graham Hancock has argued this carving depicts the Younger Dryas impact event, a catastrophic comet strike around 10,900 BC that caused mass extinction and climate change. Mainstream archaeology rejects this interpretation, but it raises fascinating questions. Are these carvings just artistic expression? Or are they encoding actual historical events? Were the builders trying to preserve knowledge in stone? So what was Göbekli Tepe? The official archaeological consensus is that it was a ritual or religious center. The circular structures are interpreted as temples. The lack of evidence for permanent habitation, no houses, no hearths for cooking. Minimal trash suggests people came here periodically for ceremonies, then left. It was a pilgrimage site, a sacred mountain where hunter-gatherer bands gathered for religious festivals. That's the safe, mainstream interpretation. But there are alternative theories. Some researchers suggest it was an astronomical observatory. The alignment of certain pillars with stars and the sophisticated understanding of celestial mechanics required for construction hint at advanced astronomical knowledge. Why would hunter-gatherers need an observatory unless they weren't simple hunter-gatherers? Another theory. Göbekli Tepe was a knowledge preservation site built by survivors of an earlier, more advanced civilization destroyed by the Younger Dryas cataclysm around 10,900 BC. This is Graham Hancock's argument that Göbekli Tepe represents the remnants of a lost Ice Age civilization trying to rebuild and preserve knowledge in stone. Mainstream archaeology dismisses this as pseudoscience, but the sophistication of Göbekli Tepe does raise questions about what came before. And here's something nobody disputes, but everyone finds strange. The entire site was deliberately buried. Sometime around 8000 BC, the people who maintained Göbekli Tepe carefully filled in all the structures with debris and dirt, preserving them perfectly. Why? Why would you spend generations building something this monumental, then intentionally bury it? The deliberate burial of Göbekli Tepe is one of its deepest mysteries. Archaeologists have confirmed that the structures weren't destroyed or abandoned. They were methodically filled with loose dirt and rubble. This wasn't erosion or collapse. This was intentional preservation. Some archaeologists theorized that burying the site was itself a ritual act. Perhaps the temples served their purpose and were respectfully decommissioned. Perhaps religious beliefs changed and the old structures needed to be hidden. Perhaps there was a cultural taboo against destroying sacred structures, so burial was the solution. And this is more speculative. Perhaps the builders wanted to preserve knowledge for future generations. By burying the site, they protected it from weather, looters, and destruction. Maybe they knew their civilization was ending and wanted to leave evidence behind. We may never know. What we do know is this: Göbekli Tepe proves that 11,500 years ago, humans were capable of organizational complexity, artistic sophistication, architectural achievement, and possibly astronomical knowledge that we didn't think existed for another 6,000 years. It suggests that human history is far older and more complex than we ever imagined. And remember, we've only excavated 5% of the site. 20 more circular structures are confirmed underground. What will we find when we excavate them? More animal carvings, astronomical alignments, written language, evidence of the civilization that came before. Göbekli Tepe has already rewritten human history once. It might do it again. If a Turkish shepherd hadn't noticed a stone sticking out of the ground in 1994, we still wouldn't know Göbekli Tepe existed. What other sites are still buried, waiting to rewrite everything we think we know about ancient history? Subscribe to this channel for more deep dives into archaeological mysteries that challenge our understanding of the past. And let me know in the comments, what do you think Göbekli Tepe was built for? Religious temple, observatory, survival bunker from a lost civilization? I read every comment. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next mystery.